The dust hung thick in the afternoon air, coating Dry Creek's town square, a patch of trampled earth between the general store and saloon, with a fine layer of grit. The square was crowded, men in worn chaps and sweat-stained hats murmuring in clusters, women in calico dresses clutching children at the edges, all drawn by a grim spectacle. Sheriff McKenna stood at the center, his badge glinting in the harsh sunlight, beside a man in rusted shackles. Tall and broad-shouldered, with bronzed skin and dark hair past his shoulders, the chained man exuded a quiet dignity despite the raw grooves the iron had carved into his wrists. His dark eyes scanned the crowd, unflinching under their stares. "Step right up, folks," McKenna called, his voice blending lawman's authority with a barker's flair. "Caught this savage stealing horses from the Matson Ranch. Judge says he's to be sold to cover damages. Who'll give me $50 for a strong back? Good for mines or breaking horses?" The crowd muttered. "Savage," one spat. "Beast," another hissed. The words flew like stones, but the man in chains stood unmoved, his calm unsettling the mob more than defiance would have. From the back, a clear voice cut through. "Don't hurt him." Heads turned as Clara Whitford pushed forward, her faded brown dress worn thin, auburn hair in a severe bun, green eyes blazing. The widow of a failing ranch, she was known for her stubborn refusal to remarry or sell. "I'll buy him," she declared, producing a cloth bundle from her purse. "Here's $70. Everything I have." The crowd erupted in shock. "Clara, you've lost your mind," cried Mrs. Patterson, the banker's wife. "You can't bring that creature onto your land." Clara's jaw set. "Call him savage if you want. I see a man worth saving." For the first time, a flicker, surprise, perhaps, crossed the prisoner's eyes. McKenna, flustered, couldn't refuse her money without defying the judge's ruling. "Fine," he growled, counting the coins. "Bill of sales at my office in an hour." Clara insisted on taking the man immediately, forcing McKenna to unlock the ankle shackles, though the wrist restraints stayed. "Come with me," she said gently. He studied her, then nodded and followed. As they moved through the crowd, faces showed disgust and outrage. "You'll regret this, Clara," Mrs. Patterson called. Clara didn't turn. "I'd regret standing by while you treat a human like livestock." At the sheriff's office, Clara secured the bill and keys, unlocking the man's wrists herself. The shackles fell with a clang, revealing raw welts. "We'll tend those at the ranch," she said. "Can you ride?" He nodded, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. At the livery stable, they took 2 horses and rode to Clara's ranch, a crumbling spread of sagging fences and weathered boards. She felt the familiar shame as they dismounted, but he only nodded, as if seeing potential where she saw failure. Inside the sparse house, lit by an oil lamp, Clara pointed to a photograph on the mantel. "My husband, Jacob. Died 3 winters ago." The man nodded, then paused at the door. "Thank you," he said, his voice deep and rusty. He slept in the barn that night, and Clara, alone in her kitchen, felt her heart race at the realization she wasn't alone on the ranch for the first time in years. By morning, a routine emerged. Clara listed urgent repairs, leaking roof, broken well pump, fox-riddled chicken coop, while the man, without prompting, began mending a harness in the barn. At supper, they ate in silence, a barn cat rubbing against his leg. He stroked it gently, surprising Clara with his tenderness. That night, she lay awake, the house's creaks mingling with the new awareness of his presence. Days later, he offered to work, gesturing at the fence. "I can't pay you," Clara admitted, flushing. He pointed to his freed wrists, then to her, signaling her act was payment enough. They worked together, his strength rebuilding fences while she tended the garden. His sparse words carried weight. "Good tools," he said of Jacob's shed. "Wise man." A week in, as water gushed from the repaired well pump, he smiled. "Samuel," he said, touching his chest. Samuel Tallbear. Clara repeated the name, savoring its dignity. The town, however, whispered venom. At Bradley's store, women avoided her, save young Tom Bradley, who slipped her extra apples and warned, Morrison's stirring trouble. Be careful. That night, Clara cleaned Jacob's shotgun. Samuel, noticing, kept a hammer on his belt. Trouble came soon after, a group led by Dale Morrison, a wealthy rancher eyeing Clara's land. We're here to check on your welfare, he said, hand on his pistol. A woman alone with a savage. His name is Samuel, Clara snapped. And my land's not for sale. Samuel stepped forward, silent but imposing, and Morrison's men hesitated. Sheriff McKenna, present but uneasy, urged them to leave. The lady's within her rights, he said. Morrison retreated, warning, this isn't over. Alone again, Clara trembled. Samuel steadied her. You stand for me, he said. I stand for you. That night, she offered him the room off the kitchen, unable to send him back to the barn. He accepted, and for the first time, Clara slept knowing someone shared her roof. Weeks passed, the ranch transforming under their care. Fences stood straight, the garden thrived, and Clara taught Samuel to read while he shared words in his language, water, sky, earth. One evening, on the porch, Clara spoke of Jacob's dreams for the ranch. Samuel listened, then said, land remembers. It waits for hands that know, hearts that stay. His wisdom tightened her throat. Trouble brewed again when riders came at dawn, Reverend Blackwood, the Harmon brothers, and others, torches in hand. You're living in sin with a heathen, Blackwood accused. Clara, shotgun in hand, stood firm. I've broken no laws. Samuel works for me. Leave. Samuel's presence silenced their threats, and when Pete Harmon tossed a torch toward the barn, Samuel stamped it out. They left, but Clara knew they'd return. Days later, smoke rose from the Garrett farm. Clara and Samuel ran to find their barn ablaze, 6-year-old Emma trapped inside. Samuel charged into the flames, emerging with the child, singed but alive. Martha Garrett sobbed gratitude, and Paul, once hostile, apologized. I was wrong about you. The townsfolk, forming a bucket brigade, made room for Samuel, and Clara saw attitudes shift. Even Mrs. Patterson admitted, he's heroic. At the Garrett's barn raising, Samuel's skill earned respect. Men followed his lead, and Paul toasted him publicly, to Samuel Tallbear, a true neighbor. Samuel's speech, about shared hopes and community, drew applause, even from some former skeptics. Clara, watching, felt pride in something deeper. Back home, Clara treated Samuel's burns, her hands lingering. You could have died, she whispered. I am here, he replied, holding her hand. That night, he gave her a white arrowhead, his mother's protective charm. As you are precious to me, he said. Clara, heart racing, kissed him softly, a promise of more. The ranch glowed with new life, as did Clara. Morrison's threat loomed, but with Samuel, the Olsen support, and the community's shifting view, she felt hope. Under the western sky, 2 wounded souls had found purpose, partnership, and the beginnings of love, daring to dream of a future where differences built bridges, not walls.